Hey dear friends, today I want to show you a very good scale exercise. If you're struggling with learning your scales, you don't know how to practice them anymore, and you want to be really, safe with them, finding the next note, being able to improvise all over the fretboard. So I'm going to show you this exercise. It has 3 steps. They're getting more advanced with each step, right? But if you can make it, if you go through those 3 steps, I promise you will be much more secure with your scales, and you can really apply it to any scale. I'm going to apply it to the major scale today, but you can use it for like the Phrygian scale, altered scale, any mode or scale that you want to practice. And first of all, the first step is to really reinvestigate those 5 scale patterns that we have for each scale. I know there are different ways of learning a scale, right? Different patterns. I always have been sticking to those 5 patterns. And let's take the G major scale for today. And I would start with one pattern, maybe this one, and just play it up and down, right? Like we know that, right? But what we're going to do differently today is to find a shape that goes with each of those scale patterns. So since we're going to practice the major scale, we're going to find a major chord that fits into this scale pattern. So we can, for example, play this chord, and it perfectly fits into this position. And I try, while I'm playing up and down, to sort of see how the notes of this chord change color or light up or whatever you want to visualize. But while I'm playing, I'm visualizing the notes of the chords in the scale. Quick side note, if you would be practicing like, let's say, Aeolian or like the Dorian scale, which all of those scales exist in the same position, you would just like pick another chord for, let's say, A minor for the Dorian scale, A minor, and then you would visualize the chords of this or the notes of this chord, and then the A would be the root, right? So that's very interesting, and you can do that with any scale. Every scale can have different sort of modes or scales in it, as many scales or modes as you have notes in a scale, with the exception of the symmetrical scales, right? And then you can sort of see the same pattern from another angle, right? But today it's going to be the major scale. So we can play our 5 positions and find a chord in each of those patterns and visualize the chord, and we can start with thinking about the root. And just like, not just to play a bunch of notes and we don't exactly know which note we're playing, right? And to know all the notes all the time, it's a lot, I know. So let's start with just like having this chord shape interjected into the pattern and visualizing this shape and thinking about all the patterns as a major scale. And the thing that I really like to do so much is like to come up with an exercise that has like 2 bars or 4 bars or 8 bars or 16 bars. And so I always make sure I know what I'm doing right, which kind of a rhythm am I playing, and then I find sort of a super repetitive thing that I play for the rest of the day. And the next step is to record like a random chord progression on my looper. So basically, I'm using all 12 notes that we have. They're all going to be the root of a major chord. Like, that's what I came up with here. I'm recording them on my looper, and then I'm going to improvise over those chords. And depending on your level, you can either just like take one position of the 5 positions where you have been visualizing this chord, right? And just shift this same position around. I'm going to demonstrate that in a second. If you're more advanced, you can just like say, I'm going to stick in one position, not shifting so much around. I have my looper, I have my looper back here, so I have to, hope it's going to work. Anyways, I'm going to play the first pattern with the first chord, trying to do that in a relaxed way. And I recorded the chords for now, 2 bars each, right? Pattern 1. position, trying to find a common note. Oh fuck, sorry. Or connect it chromatically. It's always you can start to really have some restrictions on top of this chord progression. So what I would do is like only play quarter notes, only play 8 notes, triplets, 60 notes, but also only play ascending line or play descending lines, or just like I just did, I tried to find common notes that could rest, or I would like try to have like sort of a guide tone line on the top note of the chords. And so the last level, number 3, that's the hardest one, is that you get yourself a jam track with a drum track, no accompaniment, and you play the chords for yourself, right? So always start easy, like play the chord and then play the scale, and take your time, really take your time, right? It's like you're making a sketch, right? A sketch, like you're outlining it really roughly for yourself, first of all, right? Feeling the form, maybe getting a feeling for the chord. They will develop some kind of a logic, no matter which way you pick your chords. And then you can just like get into it, give your time, give yourself the time to develop stuff. And if it's much too hard, which I can totally understand, you can still either break it down to 1 or 2 chords, right? Or you can also write down an etude, like, and then practice the etude. So write down the chords that you would play, right? Just like always the same chords in the same places, and practice it like this. Or write down an 8-note etude, right? Just like to get started. And I really swear, if you practice stuff like this, it will make you much stronger in your improvisation, because you're going to get rid of sort of the spaces on your fretboard where you don't know where you are anymore. And I really always tried to practice those patterns. I actually really do believe in them, because they helped me so much to gain security in my playing, right? I know many people are sometimes opposed to this idea because they think it's better to learn everything by ear, which is also really great. And if you can do that, please go ahead. But I think doing both, right? My system is like, you know, listen to a lot of music and transcribe and go to concerts and play, right? Like this, more like learning through osmosis. But on the other hand, I find it equally important to know what you're doing, know your music theory, know your scales, and practice stuff like this, because in the end it will really free you up to play whatever you want. See you next week. Bye.